All right, so welcome to today's live lesson for Foundation 2 English. Now, don't worry if you're new to live lessons, it doesn't matter. You'll always learn something in each live lesson you come to. It doesn't matter where you are in the course. Come to the live lessons and learn something new, okay? And last week we had been looking at the idea of character descriptions and how you can focus on building up a character to make them sound interesting in case you have to write about a character in a story or just describe them in a descriptive essay in your progression tests or exams. And this would usually happen for the progression test if you're going to create a character. That would be in section B of your tests. But today I want to look at something that is linked to character. So let me share my screen with you and show you today's topic, which is all about exploring setting and atmosphere. So yes, we've looked at character creation, but today we're going to look at setting and atmosphere and how this can contribute to building up a character as well. Okay, and this is based on your stage 9, on the work in your stage 9 book. It's your student stage 9 book, your student book, not your workbook. Okay. All right, so I'm sorry, the chat box has just disappeared. I'm trying my best to bring it back. Just want it to be in place before I start going into details. Okay. Don't know why it didn't let it stay there, but anyway. It doesn't want to stay. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'll have to open up the chat box every so often when you post a message. Okay, so bear with me. So exploring setting and atmosphere, this is the kind of thing that would also be tested in paper 2, section A, progression test or exam, because what usually happens is you're given a comprehension of some sort of an extract out of a novel or a short story, and you'll have to try and analyze how setting contributes to what's going on, or even just being able to identify the setting will be important. And the atmosphere that is created by the writer. And when we talk about atmosphere, we are talking about the mood that is created. Okay, so whether something is mysterious or frightening or exciting or happy, these are all moods, right? And mood is linked to tone, which is the attitude that the author adopts. Now, the attitude an author adopts can be a playful attitude, a humorous attitude, a serious attitude. Okay, so mood and tone are closely linked. Mood is about how you feel as the reader, the atmosphere, and what it makes you feel. And tone is about the writer's words and how they use words and the way that they come across in an extract. All right, so this is based on the teacher's resources notes for chapter 5 in your stage 9 books. And this is all about introducing the skills. Ask students what they understand by setting, right? So what do you understand by setting? And then I need to point out that although place is the most important feature, so the setting is a desert setting for this particular sci-fi novel, for example, but setting can also include the time of day. Is it set in the morning or is it set at midnight? And the weather, because weather is a very strong indicator of setting. What mood does the weather create? Is it a happy, sunshiny day, for example? Then you are to read the extract from Bleak House. Now, this is a novel by Charles Dickens. I must read it aloud to the class, and then we can discuss the annotations that you can find in your student books. These are the annotations. The annotations refers to the notes that somebody would normally make when looking at an extract. And here, this would be the markers annotations. So a student would have written this, well, for example, here it's Charles Dickens writing this, and then the teacher would make little annotations or comments on what's going on in the extract. So if you want to make annotations for yourself as we work through the extract, please feel welcome to do that. It's on page 132 of your stage 9 books. All right, so introducing the skills. Read the following extract from near the beginning of a novel. It describes London and the surrounding area on a gloomy November afternoon. So remember, in the Northern Hemisphere, November would be winter time, so things would be gloomy and dark and cold. All right, so let's have a look at this extract. At first, I'm just going to read through it, and then we can look a bit more closely at the vocabulary and what it means, because here's a glossary of those words. All right. Move this up a bit. All right. Fog everywhere. Fog up the river, where it flows among green aits and meadows. Fog down the river, where it rolls defiled among the tears of shipping and the waterside pollutions of a great and dirty city. Fog on the Essex marshes, fog on the Kentish heights, fog creeping into the cabooses of Collier brigs, fog lying out on the yards and hovering in the rigging of great ships, fog drooping on the gunwales of barges and small boats, fog in the eyes and throats of ancient Greenwich pensioners wheezing by the firesides of their wards, fog in the stem and bowl of the afternoon pipe of the wrathful skipper down in his close cabin, fog cruelly pinching the toes and fingers of his shivering little apprentice boy on deck, chance people on the bridges peeping over the parapets into a nether sky of fog, with fog all round them, as if they were up in a balloon and hanging in the misty clouds. Okay, so this setting is all about fog. What, as I read out the text, what did you notice most about it? What stood out for you? Yes, the cold winter. Yes, cold winter. Okay. What else? H. What else stands out? Is there a word that keeps standing out in the extract? The people suffering from the cold. Yes, being amazed by the fog. Yes, so this idea of cold, but specifically, did you notice that that word fog is constantly repeated? Fog everywhere, fog there, fog here, fog there. Why does the writer do that? What are they suggesting? Why do they repeat fog so often? What is the point? Expressing the situation, yes, but what about the situation? What in particular about the situation is being expressed? I know there's been suggestions of people suffering from the cold. Yes, that's true. Because it is cold, yes. But what mood, and we're not just focusing on weather here, okay? What mood is created by this repetition of fog, 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 okay? What mood is created? A sad mood. Yes, we're getting there. It is a kind of a sad mood. There is a sadness. Yes. Sneaky. Yes. And I see why you chose sneaky, because of that word creeping, and we'll have a look at the annotations a bit more closely now. But I just wanted to focus on this repetition of that word fog. Why is the writer doing that? What mood is he creating by fog, fog, fog? Yes, it's sad, but there's something else. It's not just sadness. So what I'm really looking for, and sorry if you started typing these and I've already started writing them, it creates quite a bleak mood, right? Or it's called bleak house, isn't it? When something is bleak, it's just monotonous, dreary, gray, no, it's lifeless. And it also is quite oppressive, isn't it? Just imagine this heavy fog. Everywhere you look, there is fog, 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 fog. You are lost in this sort of kind of a mist that you can't escape. You can't escape this foggy reality. It's almost like a wall of fog. And so you too are very enclosed, encased, trapped almost, right? Trapped by this heavy fog. All right, so just that repetition, by repeating that fog all the time, we get this idea of the fog being everywhere and of it being quite oppressive and inescapable. Okay. Now, let's look at some of the annotations. All right, fog everywhere, full stop. The marker or the reader likes this because the opening dramatically sums up the paragraph. Fog everywhere, and the writer goes on to explore how this fog is everywhere. Okay, and then the writer continues, fog up the river where it flows among green aits, green islands, little islands in the river. Okay, so it flows among these islands and meadows. Fog down the river. So notice that juxtaposition of up and then down. In other words, everywhere. Okay, illustrating how the fog is everywhere. Up the river, down the river, where it rolls, defiled among the tiers of shipping. Now, let's look at what tiers means. It's the levels of shipping. So there's obviously cargo ships, sailing boats, barges, different kinds of shipping types of boats. And they are all in the harbor or on the river edge. And the fog gets between them too. And so this word, he doesn't just say that the fog covered the ships or the boats. No, the fog rolls in, it defiles the tiers of shipping. Okay, so the fog down the river where it rolls defiled. Oh no, it rolls defiled. The fog is defiled among the tiers of shipping and the waterside pollutions of a great and dirty city. So the city is actually affecting the fog here. The city is defiling the fog. This means made dirty, but it hints at bad behavior as well. So for example, if someone defiles a tomb or a grave, they are desecrating it, they are vandalizing it. So there's an idea of something that's actually dirty, like pollution, and then that's bad behavior, something that is misbehaving. And so this suggests something about London, doesn't it? Yes, the focus is on the fog, but notice how it's the city that is defiling the fog. Okay, now I'm going to try and bring the chat box up to see if there's any comments. And it really just does not want to bring up the chat box. I am so sorry. Very, very frustrating. Come on, you can do it. Okay, it just refuses to bring up the chat box. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. All right, so I can't see your comments, unfortunately. So I'm just going to have to talk you through this lesson. So fog on the Essex marshes, there's a marshy area in the county of Essex. There's fog on the Kentish Heights, where the land that lies in Kent is a bit higher, okay? So it's up and down again, okay? Up and down the river, up and down the landscape. Fog creeping, and that's where that verb sneaky, that idea of something being sneaky comes in. And the comment is the verb choice, this choice of using the verb to creep, makes the fog and London, okay, sound sneaky. And this can also relate to that idea of bad behavior, of desecration, of vandalism, etc. Something not quite honest, not quite ethical. So fog creeping into the cabooses of Collier Briggs. Now the cabooses of Collier Briggs is just a fancy or archaic way of saying kitchens of coal boats. So the fog even gets into the kitchens of the coal boats. Fog lying out on the yards and hovering in the rigging of great ships. Okay, so the rigging is where all the masts and sails are, for example. So the rigging of great ships. Fog drooping on the gunwales of barges. Gunwales are upper edges of the side of a boat, so it droops on the side of the boat. Of barges, which are slightly bigger, and small boats, which are smaller. Fog, so this is all setting, and now the writer focuses on people. Fog in the eyes and throats of ancient Greenwich pensioners. And here I would ask you, well, why is the fog in the eyes and throats of ancient Greenwich pensioners? What's being said here? And I'll try one more time to get that chat box up. Great. Good, it came up. Okay. Well, because it makes them seem a bit unwell, doesn't it? All right. So, yes, it's all about how the fog is not only affecting the surroundings and encompassing and almost smothering the surroundings, but it's also affecting people's health, isn't it? Fog in the eyes and throats of ancient Greenwich pensioners. Yes, makes the old people very sick. It does. And they're wheezing by the fireside of their wards. When you wheeze, it's kind of like a raspy cough or something like that. They're wheezing, you're not breathing clearly. So there is that idea. And then fog, and they're sitting by the firesides to keep warm, okay, of their wards, the people who take care of them here, not a ward in a hospital, a person who takes care of others. So by the firesides of their wards. Fog in the stem and bowl of the afternoon pipe of the wrathful skipper. He's not just a skipper, a captain of a boat, he's wrathful. Why is this skipper of the boat angry? Since wrathful is another word for being angry. What do you think? Oh, here we have a suggestion about the people feeling sick, that it might be almost like asthma. Yes, this is not a good thing, okay? So the fog is not only affecting the setting, it's affecting the people in the setting. And what about this idea of the skipper being wrathful or angry? Why is the skipper angry? Good, yes. It's foggy, so it's hard to sail. He probably has deadlines for delivery of whatever goods he has on board. He's not going to meet those deadlines. He is stranded. He is stuck. He is wrathful. Okay, so we can infer, guess at all of these things just in this, this description. And yes, he can't navigate. That's right. He won't be able to see. So here is fog in the stem of his afternoon pipe. And this fog is down in his closed cabin. His cabin itself is full of fog. Now, is this because of the smoke from his pipe, or has he had the window open, or is it that the fog can creep in through into the room in the cabin somehow? That's not quite clear. But the point is, he's lost in this fog just like everybody else is. No matter where he tries to hide, the fog gets to him or to everybody. And what else does the fog do? Well, it cruelly pinches the toes and fingers of his shivering little apprentice boy on deck, the boy who is learning to be a sailor, who probably works for very, very, very little money, if not probably just food and board. And he's left up on deck to do whatever chores he has to do. He doesn't have a cabin. He doesn't have the luxury of a cabin. And the fog cruelly pinches his toes and fingers. What device is being used here in cruelly pinching? What device is that? What figure of speech? Personification. Good. Yes, it's personification because there is human intent behind that cruelty. Okay, so humans are cruel and we pinch, and so this frog is cruelly pinching the toes and fingers of this little boy. And he is shivering. This shivering is almost a bit like onomatopoeia. I'm going to type it so that the chat box doesn't disappear. Onomatopoeia, which is where the sound of a word reflects its meaning or adds more meaning to the word. So shivering, you hear it almost, okay? The sound is reflected in the action of the word. So we have personification, we have onomatopoeia, and then he carries on. Chance people, so just random people, chance people on the bridges, peeping over the parapets, the taller parts of the bridge, into a nether sky of fog. And here, nether means lower. Okay, it means a lower sky of fog. And it's interesting that they're peeping. It's almost like they have to try and make their way out of the fog. Peering almost. They're peeping over the parapets, trying to see where they're going, or looking down at how bad the fog is beneath them perhaps. And it's strange that they're looking into a lower sky of fog because it's so dense. The fog is so dense everywhere. Even if they look down, it's like a sky of fog. That's how dense the fog is. Okay. So with fog all around them, as if, and here, what device do we have with as? Sorry, I'm just going to cough. What device do we have with the appearance of the word as when there's a comparison? A simile. Good. Yes, there's a simile. As if they were up in a balloon and hanging in the misty clouds. So the fog is so dense that it almost feels as if they're up in the sky rather than them being down on the earth. So this is all of these effects are used to create the image of just how dense the fog is, how it smothers everything, how it is inescapable. Right. So setting contributes to atmosphere, definitely. Okay, now let's look a little bit further down, and there's a little picture that you would have in your student book of this setting. Those annotations we read through, the annotations about dramatic opening, the verb defiled and sneaky or creeping, all say these annotations show some of the effects of the language choices in the extract. Choose 3 other words or phrases that use the weather for effect and explain how they do this. Now, because we're running out of time, you're welcome to definitely contribute here on the chat. Go ahead and make comments. But I'm just going to show you the weather words that the teacher's resources point out. At some point, the fog hovers, it droops, people are wheezing, and it cruelly pinches the boy, and then there's that simile at the end. So let's look at how the fog hovers. Okay, there's this idea of weather creating a specific effect, and that's what we've been looking at the whole way through the extract. So let me look for hovering. Here it is. Fog lying out on the yards and hovering in the rigging of great ships. So that verb hovering suggests something. And what does it suggest? Well, the verb choice makes the fog sound eerily alive. It's hovering. It's almost like it's waiting for something to happen. When something hovers, it's waiting in a certain area in the air. So the verb choice makes the fog sound eerily alive. What about drooping? What function does that word have? So drooping, fog drooping on the gunwales, the sides of barges and small boats. What effect does that have? Let's have a look. I'm going to come down. Well, drooping creates a sense of dreariness. When something droops, it's dreary. It's kind of a bit lifeless almost. And I would also say oppression. There's no upliftment. It's a sense of heaviness. Okay. A sense of heaviness. And this contributes to that idea of something being inescapable. Okay. All right, what about wheezing? We did look at that, but let's have another closer look. Fog in the eyes and throats of ancient Greenwich pensioners. So this is definitely the elderly that are being referred to here. Ancient Greenwich pensioners wheezing by the firesides of their wards. This shows us, as we have discussed, the effect of the weather. And this word conjures up the fact that it is affecting their health. And maybe it's even contributed in some way to their age. Not right now, but maybe over the years. This wearisome kind of weather in November wears down these poor pensioners who have experienced it over a long time. Okay, that's just a suggestion, not necessarily true. And then cruelly, we looked at how that functions here as personification, how the fog cruelly pinches. It doesn't just pinch the toes of the poor apprentice boy, it cruelly pinches. It's a biting kind of a fog or cold. Okay. And perhaps it also suggests that the poor apprentice boy is not very well dressed for the weather, and the fact that he is exposed to the elements on the deck. So that further enhances this idea of him suffering, whilst at least the captain has some form of comfort in his close cabin. All right. And then that idea of the simile. The fog makes it seem as if the world is turned upside down. Yes, because instead of being on the bridge, on the ground, looking out, they feel as if they're up in the air, looking down. So everything is turned upside down. You could say it's not chaotic. It's slightly chaotic. It's unusual. It goes against the norm. Things are not as they should be. Okay. Although you could argue that for November, that's probably just how they should be in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay, so that is looking at how words suggest some feelings now, or how words contribute to setting. What impression of London does Dickens create? And you have to choose one of the following. A secretive place in which people behave badly. A mysterious yet exciting place that attracts people. An entertaining and inspiring place. Let me see if you can guess. A, yes, good. It's a secretive place because that fog almost hides all the things that are going on, hides the people, hides all the doings of the people in the shipyard and beyond, even in the marshes, if there is anybody in the marshes, even at the heights in Kent. And so it's a secretive place in which people behave badly. That word defiled suggests that people are slightly corrupt. Okay, there's a corruption of sorts. And this goes hand in hand with this oppressive weather. Maybe the oppressive weather allows for this corruption to take place. Now, I would have liked to, if we'd had enough time, I would have liked to have gone through this extract on page 133, but we've run out of time, so I'd like you to do that. Have a read through this extract, and this is in your orange Stage 9 student books. Look at this extract about Alberto, and look at how an atmosphere is created, and then answer the questions that follow this in the book on page 133. And see what conclusions you can come to for yourself about setting and how setting can contribute to characterization of a place almost. It's almost as if London has its own character in what we have just described. Okay. All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for all your suggestions, guys. It's been wonderful.